Anthony J. Maverick was born on February 29, 1960, in North Hollywood, California. Tony Robbins is an American author, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and life coach. His job is to put fires out immediately to get results in the moment or nothing matters. He has not lost to suicide in over 30 years. Robbins has empowered more than 50 million people from 100 countries through his audio, video, and life training programs. Robbins is also known for his infomercials, seminars, and self-help books, including Unlimited Power and Awaken the Giant Within. He is also an active philanthropist, constantly giving back to those in need. Through his partnership with Feeding America, he has provided over 200 million meals to those in need over the past 2 years. He has also initiated programs in 1,500 schools, 700 prisons, and 50,000 service organizations and shelters. He also initiated programs in 1,500 schools, 700 prisons, and 50,000 service organizations and shelters. His most recent bestseller is a financial freedom book, Unshakable, where he traveled the world to talk to the brightest minds in financial history. The book gives all proceeds to Feeding America. Robbins is the eldest of 3 children, and his parents divorced when he was 7 years old. His mother remarried a few times, one of them being Jim Robbins, a semi-professional basketball player, who adopted Tony when he was 12. Growing up, his home life was chaotic and abusive. He did not have a positive relationship with his parents. When he was 17 years old, he left home and never returned. Tony refers to himself as the why guy and helps others to identify what drives them. Emotion is the force of life. Exploring where you are today, you are able to appreciate and build connections with others.
But she had this corner, was her own little room with her own private door.
Yeah.
And she would kick her husbands out, and they would sleep in the living room. And it was brutal. And if you didn't do what you said, she poured liquid soap down me till I threw up. She beat me with hangers. She smashed my head against the wall. And I don't say those things. I haven't shared them before, but
But you just shared that. But you shared it like you've talked about everything else. Do you have no emotion there?
I do, but I'm not here to go, here's my woe story, because people have much worse difficult stories than I ever had. I'm just saying there are much more difficult stories. There are kids that have
You're just using it as a fact.
It's just a fact. And to go there and live there doesn't give me a lot. It gave me enormous emotion, and it gave me a lot of hunger to make a better life for my family. So that's the good that came in it.
People go, he's so lucky, he's so confident. No, here's what I've created for my life, and anyone I know succeeded. I'm a 17-year-old kid from Azusa, California, with no real education other than self-education, with no background, with parents that did their best, all of them, with no money, but I did one thing. I love people, and I had an enormous demand I made upon myself, and I sculpted my mind and my emotions to get me to do whatever it would take to achieve and to contribute. But to do that, I did it by using my body and changing my focus. I did it by putting myself in a peak physiology and using what I call incantations. Can you train yourself to believe something, yes or no? Absolutely. How many of you have ever made the fatal mistake of going to Disney?
His altruistic strengths have helped millions of people break through their challenges and refocus their goals to help them build a life that they love. Empowering others through connection and compassion has helped people channel success one step at a time. Tony's goal is to help other people through motivating them. He proves to make the invisible visible. He helps others refocus their energy to their purpose of why in life. His ambition to spread this message has helped millions of people around the world. He helps others through his immersions in 50-hour seminars that help people channel their motive for action and purpose in life. The internal force of drive is the most important thing in the world. This is something that Tony Robbins embodies and shares with others. Tony's ambition to help others to channel their own and help focus on what they want to improve in their life and focus on that daily will lead to improvement.
In you that maybe have gone on for years. This program's not about changing you. This is about know thyself. There's know thyself and then there's be thyself. And once you know who you are, being yourself is actually the easiest thing in the world.
Everything he said just resonated so deeply with me. I think it must have already been inside of me, but take that on and have it change my life for the better.
This technique that Tony has, smart, practical way to literally set those fears aside. that on the one hand, and then also the rewiring of your brain and the conditions and your beliefs. That to me is that unleashing the power within.
Coming actually here to have that many people focused on one intent, super powerful. It's rocket fuel.
For Tony, he's just passionate about sharing that with everybody and making sure that everyone reaches their potential.
You give people advice, you give them motivation, inspiration. What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I've had so much, but I think one of the most important ones was early in my life. One of my mentors, a man named Jim Rohn, said, Tony, all you have to focus on in your life is find a way to add more value than anybody else does, and you'll never have to worry about anything. Be the person that does more for others, and life will just be anything you want out of it, really is what it is. And he also said the way to do that is every day work harder on yourself than anything else. Because if you become more intelligent, more valuable, more skilled, you can add more value to other people.
So what is the most difficult choice, Tony, or decision you had to make to fulfill your destiny?
Wow, that's a great question. I didn't think about that answer to make it accurate. I don't know, there's been so many along the way, Oprah. I think at one stage, it was probably, I love people so much, I want to please people so much, it was the willingness to not please people, to do what's right. And that sounds overly simplistic, but probably getting a divorce was one of those, because even on the day I was being married, I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't want to disappoint her. It sounds so stupid, but it's the truth. And I think the willingness to end that and to take whatever brunt of how people would respond to that, because I never said you should stay in a relationship, you're miserable, but people look for a reason to be upset. And because I never would have found this soul if I hadn't done that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if I look at my life and say, what would my life be without Sage? Everything else would be dull by comparison, and I'm not saying that to blow smoke. I mean, this is the gift of my life. I feel like this is where I fill up so I can go rip open the moment for every human I can meet who wants it. And then I fill up somewhat with that for sure, because it's my mission, but I fill up even.
With these great leadership strengths of ambition and altruism come shadows of wounded helping and overachieving. Through his abusive childhood, Tony pushed himself to be anything less than exceptional. Beginning his career at only 17, Tony feeds off his overachievement. His need to constantly be admired and overworked is a clear example of wounded helping. The shadow of overachievement is also relevant. His early infomercials reached over 100 million Americans in 100 media markets. He was named one of the top 50 business intellectuals by Accenture and one of the top 200 business gurus by the Harvard Business Press, and is ranked on the Forbes Celebrity 100 list. Through his seminars, personal performance, and philanthropies, he has reached over 4 million people and has earned approximately $6 billion annually in sales. Tony takes on any new challenge that is presented to him regardless of his mission. For example, his willingness to drop everything and help someone in need is a consequence of his overachieving shadow. By not actively achieving something, we are failing. This makes it hard to simply relax and recharge ourselves. Tony states if you do not have 5 minutes for yourself each day, then you do not have a life. While we feel this statement is true, we also feel more than 5 minutes are required to dedicate to yourself each day in order to truly relax. Tony is constantly on the move, pushing himself through each challenge and finding bigger and better things to challenge himself with. His obsession with answering the question of what makes the difference in the quality of people's lives is part of what pushes him to continue his leadership.
It's a large piece of technology.
Go ahead.
I'm in a cryotherapy. I don't know if you're familiar with it?
Yes.
So for people who aren't, I'm on stage 50 hours in a weekend. I got 10,000 people. I do 26 and a half miles on one day. It starts at 8:30, goes to literally 1 o'clock in the morning. I do 22 miles 2 days before. So it's like ultra marathon. I used to ice myself as I did in football, and if you ice yourself.
You used to take ice baths.
Yes,
right?
yeah, because you have to bring the swelling down in your body. And now I do these 3-minute nitrogen-filled cases that you get in. It's like a sauna, and it reduces your body temperature to minus 220 Fahrenheit. And that sounds like you'd freeze to death or you'd burn. If you had water in your body, you'd burn. You get third-degree burns. But there's no moisture. And it is amazing. It was developed originally for people with arthritis. I got one for my mother-in-law who had all these problems, no more arthritis challenges. So I started using it. It gives you endorphins. It resets your system. It's an extraordinary piece of technology. It's expensive, but you can go to centers that are showing up all over the U.S. Most of the athletes, the Lakers and so forth, are starting to use these.
Due to the fact that Tony had a tough childhood and basically had to raise himself, the sin of anger engulfed him and allowed Tony to be the successful man he is today. Although the emotion of anger can manifest itself in a negative and often dangerous way, Tony took strong control of this emotion and used it for good to empower himself and others to lead successful lives. Due to Tony's abandonment from his parents as a child and having to lead his own life, Tony now has an instinctual fear that people are unreliable. Therefore, he is in charge of his own life and making himself an accomplishment. This is also what empowers him to teach others how to be more confident and do what's best for themselves without relying on other people. Although this unreliability in others creates anxious thoughts, he has found ways to recover from and push past these thoughts.
Tony is a very skillful leader possessing the strengths of altruism and ambition, which have made him very successful in his career. Along with his strengths, Tony's shadows of wounded helping and overachievement have pushed his work ethic above and beyond satisfactory, also contributing to the man that he is today. Tony is a perfect example of how one's upbringing can shape their future identity. Despite his toxic upbringing, he was able to turn his weaknesses into opportunity for improvement.